Hey, AAA, come here, sit down. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Do you know how much you've been embarrassing yourself recently? Generic games that seem to just shoot for good enough. So much slop churned out. And all for what? Just so you can make a quick buck for a quick Does David Goggins need to live with you for a year?
You don't know me, son!
And you know what the worst part about this is? You don't ever seem to take responsibility. All I hear are excuses. Oh, the budgets are too high. Well, this is the future of gaming. This is what the future requires. How else are we gonna give Aloy peach fuzz? Don't get mad at us. You don't know how hard it is to make a video game. And also, why would I care about a bunch of talentless freaks hating on it? Don't even get me started on RPGs. When it comes to that, you don't seem to know your ass from your elbow. What is writing? I've never heard that before. Hold on. The activity or skill of marking coherent words on a
Oh my God, I don't care.
Well, guess what? I've been doing some research, and it turns out you guys, all you big boys who supposedly have the best talent and the most resources in the world, yeah, you have no excuse anymore. Why? Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that's why.
Jesus! Mary, Joseph, and an ass!
If you haven't caught my drift yet, every single AAA excuse for why development has become harder and games have gotten worse have just been put in the stocks for everybody to harass all morning, because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is an RPG made by a AA studio, Warhorse, which by the way, is owned by the God of Rot Embracer Group, made with a budget of $40 million. And guess what? It's one of the best RPGs I've ever played in my entire life. The entire time I was playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I was in shock of how expertly crafted this game is, how engaging the dialogue is at every single point, how your choices affect everything around you. I mean, this is something you would expect from Prime, BioWare, or Obsidian.
Wait!
I am left with only one question. If these guys can make this game under these circumstances and manage to make this very early Game of the Year frontrunner, why can't we get the same from AAA studios? Yeah, if that Baldur's Gate 3 being an anomaly argument was writhing in pain from the collective beating it took, KCD 2 just put a bullet in its head to end its suffering. I mean, just look at these player counts on Steam. But why exactly? Why am I ranting about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? And how is this game... Sorry about that. How has this game absolutely embarrassed the industry? Well...
What the fuck are you all sitting here for? Didn't you hear? The fun's about to start!
So strap in, boys and girls, and let's get down to business. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 takes place during medieval times in the Kingdom of Bohemia, set a few days after the events of the first game. You are Henry of Skalitz, traveling with your lord Hans Capon of Perkstein to deliver a message to the lord of the region. But on the way, your party is ambushed, and you're left with nothing but the clothes on your back. Now you must work your way up from beggar status to somebody worthy of being called the Riz King of Skalitz.
I only fight when I have to. And each time, I can only wish to have nearby some girl with healing hands to put me back together after.
Now, there's so much about this game that you need to know off the bat, but where do I start? This is not structured like a traditional RPG. 75% of this game is dialogue, and the other 25% is a mix of combat, exploring and experimenting, doing your objectives to get to the next set of dialogue, and doing menial tasks, some of which I really don't like, but that's a story for later. I didn't play the first Kingdom Come, so I didn't really know what to expect, and let me tell you, if you're coming in expecting a big medieval battle simulator, it's not that guy, pal. It's not that guy. So when you have a game that is mostly dialogue, well, that dialogue and that voice acting better be incredible. Turns out in KCD 2, that's the best part. The writing in this game is phenomenal. Everybody gets right to the point, they don't waste your time, and characters bounce off each other so well.
That's true. So far, I've only had to have 2 fingers stitched back on.
What?
But don't worry, I'm sure beginner's luck will protect you.
Maybe a prayer would help more.
Good idea. O merciful God, be kind and protect us so we don't blow our arses off. Amen.
Modern RPGs from the West have had this problem where they need to fill in the dialogue quota, so they just exposition dump. Like, they'll have some girl explain the history of her father's bar when all I want is a shot of whiskey.
Blah, 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 blah.
But in Kingdom Come, every sentence feels realistic, like they're actually lines that real people would say in that circumstance. What a crazy concept! And speaking of bar, have you heard the drunk lines in this game?
Do you get it, Father?
Please, call me Rabbi, Lord Capon.
Oh, whatever. Fuck it.
You should rejoice that you are to be married.
But I didn't ask for a wife.
Fucking and boozing.
Hey! You nearly ran into me!
Fucking and boozing and fucking. Bring on the barrels and roll out the wrenches. There's nothing better than a nice pair of titties. That doesn't rhyme much.
If you took a time machine back to medieval times, this is exactly what I would expect people to sound like. And my god, is it funny as hell. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the boy himself, Henry of Skalitz. I love everything about this guy. Again, I didn't play the first game, so I didn't have the context for his character, but I love how this guy is written. He's not a stoic knight or a badass or anything like that. He's just a normal guy that just so happens to be a steward for his young Lord Hans. And he's thrust into this massive political conflict where at times he's in way over his head. But what makes him great is that he's competent. He strikes that perfect balance between serious and that self-aware Marvel writing that we're all starting to hate now. Like if a Western studio wrote this guy, and by Western I mean American or Canadian or, you know, the guys that suck right now. If they wrote this guy, they'd make him a bumbling idiot that has no idea what he's doing, that's played off for laughs, and lucks himself into good outcomes. But Henry is a character that knows his circumstances aren't great, but he accepts them and works from there, doing the best he can to make things right. Like a real person in the situation would. And I know that you choose what he says because he's the character template and this is an RPG, but when he talks, the lines are actually pretty well thought out. And there's even times where he says a line and you're like, wow, that's actually better than what I would have said.
The main thing is, I don't know you. Got it?
I might be a stranger, yeah. But everyone had to come here for the first time once, didn't they?
Well, that's true enough.
If we can free your father, I could ask him for your hand in marriage. Even under threat that he'll go back under lock and key if he refuses.
What were they doing in Ratai?
What do you think? Probably off fucking your ugly mother somewhere.
And this delivery, my god, Tom McKay is 100% the frontrunner for best performance. I know it's early, but this guy knocked it out of the park in every aspect. Props to you, my guy. So the writing is great and the performances are off the charts. But again, this is a video game. So, how does it play? So when it comes to gameplay, like any good RPG, the dialogue also supplements it. Very early on, you may be asking yourself, why the hell am I failing every speech check? Damn, I know I didn't pick charisma as my primary stat, but does that really f me that much? That was my initial thought when I played the first day, and frankly, I was pissed, because how the hell am I this low? I literally can't advance anything. Well, it turns out that in KCD2, your charisma is tied to what you're wearing. So if you're wondering why I look like I'm built for parties instead of built for combat in this footage, that's the reason. The nicer your clothes look, the more charisma you build up, which allows you to pass more speech checks, which raise your speech level so you can pass more speech checks until you get to a point where everybody does anything you say. Oh, I got caught pickpocketing a guard? F you. Do you know who I am? But do you know what else determines your charisma? How you smell. Yeah, in Kingdom Come, if you don't wash yourself at a trough or get a hand job at the bathhouse, you start to smell, which makes other people react in kind when you walk by them.
Yeah. Who stinks here?
Christ,
on now.
what did
Put
you
that
roll
away.
around in?
In your daughter's bed?
She's a real sow, that one.
How rude.
So you always need to be washing and pleasuring. Also ties to the dialogue is your reputation. Every zone and every group of people have a reputation meter that's determined by what you do, what you say, how well you can haggle at shops, and this determines how people will interact with you. Like if you have a good reputation like I did with the guards, you'll walk by and they'll be like, God be with you. because Jesus is a big thing here.
Lord be with you.
Most of the dialogue choices will impact your reputation, including basic ones that seem to be there to exhaust the dialogue, but not all of them will make you look good, which is why where in most RPGs you'd exhaust every bit of dialogue to feel complete, in Kingdom Come some dialogue will make you look like an idiot to the person you're talking to, which makes you lose reputation. So you have to be mindful about which dialogue you're choosing because not everything should be picked. But alright, I've talked enough about talking enough. Now we get to the good old medieval dueling action. We now get to the combat. And boys, I'm gonna be honest, I f***ing suck at this. This ain't your typical first-person melee combat. This is a puzzle. This is a real dueling simulator, down to choosing what direction you swing your sword. And if this gameplay that I'm showing you proves anything, it's that most of the time, I'm wrong. You need to swing your sword in the direction where the enemy's weapon arm is the farthest away, otherwise they can parry you and then riposte, which you can also do, which gets you into some pretty intense back and forths, which that I really love. But every hit costs stamina, and before you know it, you could be a sitting duck if you don't manage your actions properly. I don't know how guys use hammers and clubs with this stuff, because if I didn't have the stabby stab, I would not have been able to beat this game. But there's also times where the guys you're fighting have armor, which deflect most of your sword strikes, so you need a weapon like a hammer or a mace to damage, but as I established, I suck at that, and you see how I can go insane with this. The combat is also heavily reliant on one-on-one encounters, because you can only attack one enemy at a time, so if you get surrounded, you're screwed, unless you can position yourself properly and keep all the enemies in front of you.
Damn, that'll be as hairy as the balls of St. Killian.
This combat is a true test of skill, which is why you should do Tomcat's side quest immediately in the game, so you can learn different combos, and always shit talk your enemies. But you don't always have to sword fight, because you also have stealth, which is just a crouch button that gets people suspicious when you do it right in front of them.
What are you doing here?
I'm not gonna lie, it took me until the last act of this game to learn how to properly do a stealth kill and how to consistently pull it off. Number one, you need a dagger, easy enough. Number two, when you see the sword icon, you press the attack button, but when that doesn't work, you need to immediately press the block button when the green shield comes up to pull them back in. Now this doesn't seem hard at all, it's a QTE. Why are you having so much trouble with it, you noob? Well, because the timing on this thing is so pinpoint precise that if you don't get it exactly on rhythm, you fail. And there you go. Now everybody's alerted. I honestly thought my strength wasn't high enough, but I just wasn't hitting it right. Again, skill issue, but goddamn, man. All the gameplay is helped out by a pretty damn good progression system. It's structured like Skyrim, where you level up an area based on how much you do it, each level giving you a point to spend on a different perk. Stuff like better chances at landing an opening strike, or faster stamina regeneration after running for a certain amount of time. Love your ranger run. And of course, when you fully level up, you have other things you can do. Now, I would be committing blasphemy if I didn't warn you that combat is not always common in KCD2, because this game is incredibly realistic, meaning you will actually have to do menial tasks that most games would just have a graphic for or something. There are times, especially in the beginning of this game, where you will have to do things like pick up bags and walk slowly to a certain area, put those bags down, and come back and do the rest. You have to manually forge your own weapons at the blacksmith, which admittedly, it's fun forging a sword. I can't forge a horseshoe to save my life though. Someone please help me. You want to craft a potion? You have to actually do it, step by step. On second thought, I'll just buy it. But it's here that I have a genuine flaw with this game, and that is the lock picking. I don't know how the control is on PC, but I played on PS5, and you have to perform surgeries on the weekends at New York Presbyterian to keep this dot in its exact location. I mean, I went for very easy locks, and I still had a bunch of trouble with it. This is one where I'm not going to accept skill issue as an answer. It's way too difficult to keep this thing in place. Like, this is an entire mechanic, an entire way to solve quest objectives in the game, just cut off because it doesn't feel properly tuned. Again, on console. Aside from that, KCD2's gameplay is not going to be for everyone, but for the ones that it is for, it is among one of the most rewarding feelings you can possibly have when you overcome it. And I don't say that about many games. When it comes to the world of KCD2, I was surprised at just how beautiful it was and how alive it felt. Like I said earlier, if you took a time machine back to this era, this is exactly how I'd imagine everything would look and feel. This game is awesome. You know the bar is great when they have a skeleton with a knife in his ribs. Townspeople crowding the streets selling wares and going about their day, having conversations with each other. Hell, this one time I walked in on a fight between two drunk guys that started in the street. Like, this type of immersion is something that you rarely see in games like this. And even little historical details, like not being able to wander outside at night without a torch. Like, the guards will literally arrest you if you don't have it on you because you look suspicious without it. It even works, while it's raining. Also, it's been a while since we had truly great menu music. I mean, just listen to this. This game also does something really unique with fast travel, where when you actually pick a location, you have a little character icon that moves around the map, but every once in a while, you can be stopped because of a situation that pops up. You notice somebody on the side of the road, bandits attacking someone, a camp nearby you can rest at, a guy who seems to have just the worst luck imaginable. How nice of Ubisoft to make a cameo. But you don't have to indulge any of these. You could just continue on your way. Now, if this was mandatory that you'd stop, I'd get really annoyed, but it's just there if you want it, making fast travel much more interesting, which I appreciate. This game also has some pretty good side quests. Like, they're multifaceted, they got depth to them. I want you guys to experience some of these side quests for yourselves, but some of the ones I found were really, really good. I had to solve the murder of a bunch of young women that took me all over the place. I had to investigate the disappearance of a daughter of the old woman that heals you in the beginning, which is where you find out that she has a secret lover. There's one where there's a hole in the ground and people that walk by think that there's a portal to hell in it because they keep hearing weird roars. That is just 3 that I did, and all of those were better than a lot of the main quests in many RPGs released today. Now, I didn't do all the side quests, obviously, but if you want to just pass the time in KCD2 doing side quests, you're not going to be disappointed, which is rare that I could say that of side quests. But you know what else is rare? Freedom. Player choice. In Kingdom Come, when doing side quests and even main quests, you have some freedom and player choice to do things how you want. In some cases where you can pickpocket somebody, instead you can just knock them out and take it. Or you can solve it peacefully by doing other things. For instance, there's one quest where you have to save one of your boys from the stocks in a little town. Well, he's in the stocks because he robbed and almost killed somebody. So you have a few options to save him. You could
Pick this fucking lock.
You could treat the man, which will allow the bailiff to let the guy walk free, or you could rob the keys from the bailiff. Now, I'm not good at healing, I'm not good at lockpicking, and you don't exactly have a good angle to rob the bailiff, so, instead of doing all of that, I killed the fucking bailiff. Hey, you know what the best part about this was? Nobody saw me do it. Yeah, this was in the street, but nobody was around to see me. So I just killed this town sheriff, freed a prisoner in public, and walked off like it was nothing. Have fun solving that crime, assholes! It's that type of freedom that makes this game so great to play and experiment with. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other ways you could solve quests that I haven't figured out yet. And thank God, when you kill a guard or official in an actual fight, there isn't a psychic alert that goes out to all the other guards. So now that all that is taken care of, it's time to talk about the story. Because, dear viewer, I was not expecting this. Alright, story time with ZD Boy, baby. And as always, if you don't want to know, skip to the timestamp. Alright, let's roll. So from what I've read and heard, the story of the first game was one of its weak points. And after playing this one, I think they took that personally. Again, a lot of this goes back to how good the writing and the dialogue is, but the story itself is also structured really well, and the quests themselves are very well designed. Not looking at you, Storm. Missions like Godwin impersonating a cardinal and having to speak Latin, and the only way he can remember Latin is if he's drunk. The whole quest line with infiltrating Sigismund's war camp and defending Musa of Mali in a murder trial.
Black.
The damn pistol retrieval quest with Kubienka is hilarious.
For
fuck's sake, enough. Torture.
See? I told you I knew exactly where to find them.
God, why are you punishing me?
But there is one mission that I have nothing but appreciation for, and that is King's Gambit. You infiltrate the Kuttenberg City Council meeting with King Sigismund and his various officials, and you are impersonating the royal waiter. So for this mission, you have to just sit back and wait for one of the officials to ask you for more wine. Now on the surface, this may sound boring as hell. Like, I'm just standing here and occasionally pouring wine. What's the appeal here? What Warhorse does here should be studied by every quest designer in the industry. You as the waiter have 2 wines to pour, red and white, and you have to listen for which lord calls out for which wine, but sometimes they don't call it red or white. They'll sometimes say monastic or monastery for red and tokaji for white. And on top of that, there's a guy who you've been specifically instructed to not give wine to because he'll disrupt the meeting. So because you have to listen for and remember all these different things, you're locked into this meeting, because if you mess up, you're thrown out. All while you're picking up every mundane thing that everybody at this meeting says, and you learn that things are not going well for Sigismund. There's a lot of problems in-house. Most don't come up again in the story, but just getting a perspective from the other side on how things are going adds way more complexity to this overall conflict, and you would not have cared about any of it if you didn't have to listen to your requests as a waiter. Oh, and all the while, your family's killer is sitting right in front of you. This is one of the most impressive quest lines that I've ever seen. Massive props. But of course, we have the backdrop for all this, which, by the way, did you know most characters in this game were real people? Yeah, if you read the Codex entries, you learn some history. Didn't learn that until later. Sorry, Professor, I didn't read the Codex on Rosa Rutard. I was too busy giving her the Kingdom Come. Sorry, the backdrop. As you know, the Kingdom of Bohemia is politically divided by 2 kings, Wenceslas and Sigismund. You obviously serve Wenceslas, and you and your lord, Hans Capon, are delivering a message to Lord Otto von Berghoff to see if he would think about switching sides to Wenceslas. But again, things go tits up all the time. And that's something this story does very well. It beats its characters down, has them lose and be on the back foot constantly before at the last minute they find a way to win or live to fight another day. Don't get it twisted, Sigismund has the stronger army. Matter of fact, Wenceslas is in prison in this game, so that tells you all you need to know about how things are going for you. You're the resistance here. I mean, you open the game up defending against a siege with Hans taking an arrow in his shoulder. If that doesn't set the tone for how this game is gonna go, I don't know what will. Speaking of that prick, Hans, you know why things go sideways for you early on? It's because of this moron.
Hans, you breaking my balls here, Hans. You breaking my balls.
This spoiled brat will not shut up, and he keeps flaunting his lord status, thinking that that's gonna get him things.
You fucking cunts! Do you know who I am?
No, we fucking don't.
Bro, you're trying to demand respect. More than half our problems are because of you, you little shit. But I don't hate him? Dialogue!
Oh, that really shrivels the old ballsack.
Once you get captured and Hans is almost hanged for poaching, his character kind of mellows out. And though I don't remember him explicitly saying he has a new appreciation for life now after almost dying, you could tell that that moment changes him, and it feels like he's become more mature, aside from when he chews out the Chamberlain immediately after, which I'd do the same thing.
Sir, I could not have realized that.
You couldn't have realized! Yes, you could, but then you wouldn't have been able to play the Lord and stage private executions. I wouldn't dream of inconveniencing you. I'll find my quarters by myself.
I don't know, maybe it's just me or I missed something, but he never really got on my nerves past this point, and I think that's why. And speaking of changing, let's talk about Henry's choices. There are a few key moments in this game that impact the general story and how Henry is viewed. One of those is early on with what you do with Samine. You start assisting von Berghoff and trying to find out why him and his guard have been getting ambushed so much, which takes you to the House Samine, which is where you've been working, at least if you pick the blacksmith, because they may be hiding a traitor. They are, and you can choose to either side with the mustached enforcer you're with and burn Samine to the ground for treason, or stand against him. I helped him burn it to the ground, which turns out that was the wrong choice because I was essentially helping the bad guys. Another one later in the game is what you do with Malashov, and this one hurts. You have to break into the fortress of Malashov to capture von Berghoff. Every one of your crew is ready to go out. Alright, here's the plan, guys. The fortress is heavily guarded, but here's how we're gonna fix that. We're gonna burn the village right outside it to get all the fortress guards to come out.
What?
What? No, hell no, Shishka. Hell no, Dry Devil. I'm not displacing innocent people from their homes. No way. We're doing this. No, we're doing this the right way. Burn them all. That choice is by far the best in the entire game because it's literally making you choose between what is right and what is easy, and Dumbledore is ashamed of me. And then you get your personal vengeance, Henry's vengeance, with Istvan Toth, who stole Henry's family sword, and Aardvark van Owlet, who killed his family. Toth is a real asshole. Holy shit.
You rot in hell.
You think people like me are afraid of hell? The powerful lords invoke hell to keep simpletons like you in line. God doesn't give a shit about me, and the feeling's mutual.
I'm sure if you played the first game, you were giddy when Henry escapes his jail cell only to sneak into Toth's room and square up with him. Here, you can choose to either duel him honorably or kill him dishonorably. Given all I've said about my combat ability, guess which one I chose. But, that gets his gay lover pretty mad.
I swear, by everything that is holy, I will find that awesome, and I will rip out his heart!
Dude, somebody give this guy a raise. And the same goes for Von Owlitz when you find him, who is way more honorable than Toth. He's already dying because of a wound in battle, and you know what? No, this scene is incredible. I'd play it, but it's long, and it doesn't do it justice to play in parts. Trust me on that. The only thing I will say about this scene, Lacrimosa. So that's KCD 2. Everything sounds impeccable. This score sounds easy, right? Not quite. There is one thing that is keeping me from fully declaring Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 a masterpiece. The last act of this game has quite a few design flaws and oversights that leads me to believe this part of the game was not fully playtested.
What the fuck are you talking about? Speak clearly!
What do I mean by that? Well, example 1. Towards the end, you defend a couple sieges, and the enemy soldiers will put up ladders on the walls, and you have to knock them down. The problem is, when you're knocking them down, they're still coming up the other ladders, and that leaves your soldiers to deal with them. But a lot of the time, there's not a lot of your soldiers, so there's not a lot of them to help curb the flow of enemies, and sometimes the enemies will just walk right by them, or worse, the 2 soldiers over there die immediately, which leaves you surrounded, and therefore, as the Greeks put it, fucked. Leaving the outcome up to whether or not the AI decides to function properly is not good design. I don't want RNG determining how hard my time is gonna be. But alright, maybe it's a skill issue, against all odds, maybe. Example 2. The mission where you infiltrate the Italian court. You have to chase down the legate on horseback, who was uncatchable for me. Turns out, you need a horse with a lot of speed to chase him down. But nowhere before the mission was it ever even alluded that, hey, you might want to get a faster horse. No, instead you have to reload your save. That's not good design. But okay, maybe there's a specific strategy to knocking down the ladders. And maybe I should have worried about my horse's speed throughout the game, even though I never needed to until now. Maybe it's my fault. Example number 3.
I'm gonna kill you. But shut your mouth.
Do you see the problem here?
Yeah, I feel like anybody in development who saw this would have easily said, oh, that's wrong, gotta change that camera angle. And if that wasn't enough, that uniform is a disguise you get in the camp. Example number 4. In the flashback cutscene of you leaving for the camp, you're wearing that same disguise. You didn't have that then. Do I sound less crazy now? When there's that many design problems in that pocket, how can you not come to that conclusion? But does this ruin the game for me? Absolutely not. You'd be a fool to think so. All this proves is that it took until the end for KCD2's story to start showing flaws. Every single AAA studio should be paying attention to this game, because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 just exposed every underachieving player that thinks their position is secure because they're an established brand. This game was made for less money than yours, from a team that was smaller than yours, and these are the results we got from that. Now when we get a game with a bad story and bad writing from AAA studios, we can confidently say, you guys suck at your jobs, because Warhorse just delivered one of the great RPGs of this decade so far. It's not quite Baldur's Gate 3, but it's that same caliber of passionate developers who have the talent and the creativity to make something incredible. Everybody else this year has a tall task ahead of them, beating this game out for Game of the Year. I don't know what else can top this, maybe GTA 6 if it decides to poke its head up out of the ground, but good luck. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 represents hope for the industry. But there's another side to this equation. A side very similar to this, but a side that shows the complete opposite viewpoint. That side is called Avowed. Tune in next time. For now, praise Saint Barbara, because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is 100% a 9.5 out of 10.